I'm Jennifer, 32, and I never imagined my family would shut me out of Christmas. I always poured my heart into making holidays special, even though my relationship with my mom was rocky. When she called to say they needed a Christmas break this year, I thought I got it, until social media exposed the truth. Those photos revealed everything I was missing. So, I bought my dad his dream truck. What happened next flipped my world upside down. If you're watching this, comment where you're from, and hit like and subscribe if family drama hits home for you too. I grew up in Portland, where we didn't have much. My parents juggled multiple jobs to keep our simple 3-bedroom home in a decent area. Mom was a receptionist at a dental office, and Dad did city maintenance work. They worked hard to ensure my sister Vanessa and I had what we needed. I was the serious kid, always studying, earning straight A's, and hiding in the library instead of partying. My parents didn't push me, my drive was all mine. By 16, I was hooked on technology, amazed by how computers tackled big problems. Vanessa, for years younger, was my opposite. I planned every step, she lived for the moment. I fought for attention, but Vanessa effortlessly stole the spotlight, especially with Mom. Jennifer can handle herself, Mom would say, as if my independence meant she should shower Vanessa with all her care. College was a financial struggle. I got a partial scholarship to Washington State University, but it covered only half my tuition. I worked 20 to 30 hours a week in the campus computer lab and took loans for the rest. I only came home for major holidays, noticing how my family's dynamic shifted more. Each Christmas, Mom fawned over Vanessa. I'd share my Dean's List honors, and Mom would nod before raving about Vanessa's small role in a local play. Dad gave me a proud smile and a quick hug, but he never questioned the imbalance. After college, I scored a job at a rising tech firm in Seattle. The first few years were grueling, with 80-hour weeks, but it paid off. At 28, I led my own team. By 30, I cleared my student loans and bought a condo. Vanessa, though, jumped from acting to real estate to interior design, never lasting more than 18 months. Mom cheered her every move. She's still finding her passion, Mom would say, brushing off my career wins as just being tech-savvy. Holidays grew tougher over time. I showed up with thoughtful gifts, hoping to connect, but I always felt like an outsider in my own family. Dad and I would retreat to the garage, tinkering on his latest home repair project, sharing beers and a quiet bond that felt like home. Last Christmas was rough. Vanessa brought her new boyfriend, Kyle, a slick real estate investor she'd dated for just 2 months. Kyle hugged every conversation, boasting about his deals and house flipping plans. Something about him felt off, especially his vague answers about his past. When I asked Vanessa how they met, she snapped, "Not everyone runs background checks, Jennifer. Some of us trust our gut." That night, Mom cornered me, accusing me of envying Vanessa's relationship. "You're too busy working to find someone. Be more open like your sister, and maybe you'd have a Kyle too." I left the next morning, cutting my 3-day visit short with a work excuse. Dad walked me to my car, mumbling an apology without explaining. "Your mom just wants everyone happy," he said, his usual line when she hurt me. The next year, I kept trying to stay close with calls and visits, but each one left me feeling further away. I sent birthday gifts and research treatments for Dad's minor heart issues. I offered to help with their mortgage when they mentioned money troubles, but Mom shut me down, saying they didn't need charity. My career was my saving grace. 3 months ago, I landed a huge promotion to Senior Engineering Director, nearly doubling my salary. I finally felt financially secure, able to travel, invest, and help my parents if they'd let me. The job brought more duties but also the respect I'd always chased. With the holidays nearing, I started dreaming up ways to make Christmas special. Maybe I'd rent a mountain cabin for us all or surprise my parents with a weekend getaway after our usual celebration. Despite everything, I still longed for closeness. I believed we could mend the silent rift between us. I had no clue how completely that hope would shatter. 3 weeks before Christmas, I was shopping at Pacific Place Mall in Seattle. The place sparkled with giant crystalline snowflakes and a 30-foot tree. Holiday tunes filled the air, and despite the crowds, I felt festive. I just picked out a sleek leather wallet for Dad when my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen, and I paused. She rarely called first, always waiting for me to reach out. Something felt wrong, but I brushed it off and answered brightly. "Hey, Mom. I'm grabbing Christmas gifts. I found this awesome wallet for Dad, like Grandpa's old one." Mom paused before answering, her voice stiff and formal. "Jennifer, about Christmas. Your dad and I talked, and we want to skip the holiday stress this year." I froze, stepping aside as shoppers rushed by. "Skip it? What does that mean?" "Just a quiet year," she said. "No big dinner, no gifts, no decorations. With your dad's heart condition, we need to keep things calm." My mind spun. Dad's heart issue was minor, managed with meds. His doctor said he was fine for normal activities. Still, I wanted to be supportive. "Okay, I get keeping it low-key. I can cook, or we can order takeout. Whatever works." "No need," Mom cut in fast. "We're thinking just immediate family this year. Small and intimate." "But I'm immediate family," I said, my confusion growing. She sighed. "Of course, honey. I meant just us, Vanessa and Kyle, since they're so serious now." The rejection stung, but I tried to compromise. "I could come Christmas Eve or the day after, if that's better." "Jennifer, you're not getting it," Mom said, her tone sharpening like it always did when I didn't agree right away. "We need a full break. Vanessa and Kyle are dealing with some changes, and they need our support. Your dad and I can't handle a big event." "I don't want a big event," I said, my voice cracking as my throat tightened. "I just want to spend Christmas with you all." "We're also tight on money," she added, dodging my plea. "Not everyone has a high-flying tech job. Some of us have to watch our spending." She always threw my career in my face, like my success was a flaw. I'd offered to help them financially before, but they'd shut me down, acting insulted. "I can help," I said softly. "You know I'd love to." "We don't need your charity," she snapped, then softened. "We just need a quiet year, Jennifer. You get it, right? You're so independent. You'll be fine." There it was, my independence used to push me away. Surrounded by holiday shoppers, I felt utterly alone. "Sure," I mumbled. "I get it." "Great," Mom said, relieved. "We'll call you on Christmas Day. Maybe next year we'll plan something." After hanging up, I stood still, the festive mall feeling like a cruel mockery. The wallet I'd picked for Dad felt heavy. I put it back on the shelf and left, my holiday spirit gone. At my condo, I poured wine and tried to make sense of it all. Part of me ached, rejected, but part of me felt oddly relieved. Family Christmases had grown so tense. Maybe a break would help us all. I called my friend Sophia that night and told her everything. "That's strange," she said bluntly. "They're cutting you out, but not cousins or anyone else?" "Just immediate family this year," I echoed Mom's words. "But your immediate family," Sophia said, mirroring my thoughts. This doesn't add up. Despite her doubts, I chose to let it go. If they needed space, I'd give it. I started planning a new Christmas, booking a solo Hawaii trip for December 26th. I'd volunteer at a local shelter on Christmas Day, then enjoy a week of sun. I actually got excited, no stress, no tiptoeing, no feeling unwelcome. Just warmth, beauty, and a chance to give back before a real vacation. In the following weeks, I sent simple holiday cards instead of gifts. Dad called to thank me, sounding off and quickly handing the phone to Mom when I asked about his health. Our talk was short and shallow. Vanessa didn't even mention her card. As Christmas neared, I buried myself in work, wrapping up projects. I bought supplies for the shelter and packed for Hawaii. I kept telling myself I was okay, that sometimes holidays don't go as planned. Next year would be better. I didn't know how much more painful the truth would be. The week after Christmas flew by in Hawaii's sunshine. I hiked volcanic trails, swam in turquoise waters, and didn't check work emails once, a first in years. Being away from Seattle and my family gave me clarity. Maybe this break was the reset we needed. I went back to work on January 2nd, feeling refreshed. My team shared their holiday stories, and I gave edited highlights of my trip, skipping why I went. At lunch, my coworker Jackson stopped by with his laptop. "You've got to see this," he grinned. "My niece's Christmas puppy is the cutest thing ever." I grinned as Jackson opened his laptop to share his family photos. He scrolled through shots of Christmas morning at his sister's place, his niece tearing into a gift to reveal a golden retriever puppy with a red bow. "That's so cute," I said, nodding as he flipped through more holiday pictures. Then he showed me a video call with relatives who couldn't attend in person. "We had this big family Zoom for everyone far away," he explained. As the video played, something caught my eye in the background, a social media feed on someone's screen. I swore I saw my cousin Jamie's profile picture. "Can you rewind a bit?" I asked, keeping my tone light. Jackson did, and there it was, Jamie's profile, with what looked like a Christmas photo from my family. "Thanks for sharing," I said quickly. "That puppy's going to be a joy. I've got to prep for a meeting now." Once Jackson left, I dove into my social media accounts. I rarely use them, sticking to calls or texts to stay in touch. I hadn't checked Facebook in weeks. Sure enough, Jamie had posted photos from Christmas at my parents' house. The first showed their living room, decked out with the same lights and ornaments as always. The tree I'd helped Dad pick last year stood in the corner, decorated with handmade ornaments Vanessa and I made as kids. My hands trembled as I clicked through more images. Mom stood proud in her special Christmas apron, next to a perfectly roasted turkey. Dad carved it at the dining table, stretched to seat at least 12. Vanessa sat on Kyle's lap, both in matching Christmas sweaters. Two young girls, maybe 7 and 9, wore identical outfits beside them. I stared at those kids, baffled. Kyle never mentioned having children. Neither did Vanessa. Who were they? Other photos showed more relatives, my Aunt Linda, Uncle Greg, cousins Jamie and Tyler, all smiling, swapping gifts, enjoying a big family Christmas. The one I was told wasn't happening. I shut my office door and kept digging. Jamie had tagged everyone, including Kyle. I clicked to his profile, which I'd never seen before. His post showed the same event, with captions like "Best Christmas with my girls and extended family" and "So thankful Vanessa's family embraced us." One post called the girls my daughters Lily and Emma, meeting their future grandparents. My breath caught as the truth hit me. My family didn't just cancel Christmas, they lied to keep me out, hosting a huge gathering with extended family and Kyle's supposed daughters, who I'd never heard of. I texted Sophia right away, "Call me ASAP. Something's up." Minutes later, she called. "What's wrong?" she asked, worry clear in her voice. "They lied," I said, my voice shaking. "They didn't cancel Christmas. They just didn't want me there." I sent her the photo links as I explained. "Oh my God, Jennifer," she gasped. "This is awful. Have you talked to them?" "Not yet," I said. "I'm still reeling. And Kyle's calling these girls his daughters, but Vanessa never mentioned them. Something's off. Want me to come over after work?" Sophia offered. "You shouldn't deal with this alone." I thanked her but said no. I needed time to process what this meant and what to do next. All day, I found more proof. Other relatives' posts showed the gathering was planned weeks ahead, with photos of decoration shopping dated before Mom's no Christmas call. That night, alone in my apartment, I broke down. My hope that our family issues were fixable crumbled. They didn't just exclude me, they built a whole lie to do it. The next day, I worked from home, avoiding my coworkers. I messaged Jamie about the photos. Her reply stunned, "Did your mom not tell you about the change? That's awful. I thought you skipped it for work." After some back and forth, Jamie confessed the truth. Christmas was never cancelled. Mom planned the usual big party weeks in advance, telling everyone not to mention it to me. "Vanessa said you wouldn't want to come," Jamie wrote. "Something about you judging her and Kyle. I shouldn't say this, but it felt wrong seeing you weren't there." I thanked Jamie for being honest and kept investigating. Through social media and mutual friends, I learned about Kyle. Those girls weren't his daughters. They were his ex-girlfriend's kids from a brief relationship. He had no custody or real tie to them, yet he presented them as his own to my family. That night, I shared my discovery with Sophia on the phone, and she was furious. "Wait, so your sister's boyfriend, who she's known for, 10 months, brought kids who aren't even his to a family Christmas, and your family lied to keep you away? That's messed up." I didn't know what to say. This was just another chapter in a story where I'm always on the outside. Vanessa spins tales, Mom buys them, and Dad just goes along to avoid conflict. For days, I thought about confronting them. I wrote texts, drafted emails, and practiced phone calls, but it all felt pointless. They'd deny it, make excuses, or paint me as the bad guy for being hurt. This time, I wanted my response to hit hard, to be undeniable. I knew exactly what would resonate with Dad, the one I've always felt closest to, even if he never stood up for me. The truth left me reeling. That first night, after seeing the evidence, I sat alone in my apartment, barely able to breathe through the betrayal. My string lights, hung for a bit of holiday cheer, now mocked me. I poured a glass of wine, then another, trying to dull the pain. Work emails kept pinging, but deadlines and meetings meant nothing when my family had just shattered my trust. At midnight, I called Sophia, ignoring how late it was. She picked up on the second ring, voice groggy. "Jennifer, what's wrong?" "Everything," I whispered. "It's all wrong." Sophia listened quietly as I spilled it all, the photos, the lies, the kids I didn't know about. "I knew we had issues," I said, "but this? They planned it. They all agreed to leave me out. My own parents." "This isn't on you," Sophia said firmly. "It's their messed up dynamic. No normal family does this." "Then why do I feel like I did something wrong?" I asked, voice breaking. "What was so bad about me?" "Nothing," she said. "Nothing at all. Some families can't handle someone who doesn't fit their story. Your success scares them." The next morning, head pounding from wine and exhaustion, I started digging deeper. I needed to know the whole truth. I messaged my cousin Jamie for a phone call, not just texts. She hesitated but agreed. "I feel awful about this," Jamie said when we talked. "I thought you knew and chose not to come." "Tell me everything," I urged. "When did they plan it? What did they say about me?" Jamie sighed. "It started after Thanksgiving. Your mom called everyone about the usual Christmas party, but 2 weeks before, she said not to tell you. She claimed you were too busy with work and would feel bad missing out. Did that even make sense?" I asked. "Excluding me to spare my feelings?" "Not really," Jamie admitted. "But your mom insisted. Vanessa said you were judging Kyle and his situation with the girls, saying harsh things." "What girls? What situation?" I pushed. I didn't even know he had kids in his life. Jamie sounded shocked. "You didn't know? Kyle's ex has 2 daughters. He dated her for like 10 months, stayed close with the girls after. He calls them his daughters sometimes. Vanessa said you knew and thought it was wrong." I was floored. I hadn't known about these kids, let alone judged them. Jamie, I haven't talked to Vanessa about Kyle since last Christmas. He never mentioned kids. The silence was heavy. Oh God, Jamie said. This is worse than I thought. After our call, I reached out to other family members who were there. Most dodged me, but my Uncle Greg finally answered, confirming they were told I knew about the party but skipped it for work. Your mom said you're too focused on your career for family, he said, clearly uneasy. I should have called you. I'm sorry, Jennifer. I spent hours on social media, piecing it together. Kyle introduced the girls to my family in November, per the earliest photos. By Christmas, they were part of our traditions, called his daughters. A gym friend who knew Kyle's ex shared more. The girl's mom had full custody, Kyle had no legal ties. He only saw them sometimes, mostly for social media posts. He's using those kids as props, my gym friend told me. Their mom's upset about how he shows them off online. She might take legal action to stop it. The truth hit hard. Kyle was faking a devoted dad role. Vanessa backed his story, maybe even bought into it. And my parents, especially Mom, embraced this fake family while shutting me out. I told Sophia during our nightly call, and she was alarmed. This isn't just family drama, Jennifer, she stressed. It's toxic. Kyle's lying about those kids. Vanessa's either in on it or clueless. And your parents picked a stranger's fake family over you. What can I do? I asked. If I confront them, it'll just be more lies and blame. Maybe you can't fix this, Sophia said softly. Some family ties are too broken. You might need distance to protect yourself. Her words rang true, echoing a truth I'd dodged for years. This wasn't a one-off fight. It was a lifetime of being the outsider, never fitting their story. That night, I flipped through old family albums, looking for answers. Every photo showed the same pattern: Vanessa, always close to Mom, me, always a bit apart, nearer to Dad if anyone. One Christmas photo from when I was 16 stood out. I held an academic award proudly, but everyone focused on 7-year-old Vanessa opening a gift. My moment faded, unnoticed. That's when it clicked. I was done begging for a place in my own family. No more chasing their approval. This time, I'd act in a way they couldn't ignore. I knew exactly how to reach Dad, the one I felt closest to, despite his silence when I needed him. Dad had always dreamed of a Ford F-150 truck. He'd pause in parking lots to admire them, grab dealership brochures, and talk about someday owning one. But that day never came. He drove old, beat-up cars my whole childhood, replacing one junker with another, always putting family needs first. His current Chevy was 15 years old, rusty, with 200,000 miles and constant breakdowns. Thinking about my family's betrayal, I recalled a talk with Dad last summer. In his garage, he mentioned his car's transmission failing again. Maybe get something reliable, I'd suggested. Someday, he said with a tired smile. When the bills are paid. Bills were never all paid. There was always a reason to delay his dreams. But I could change that now. The next morning, after my album epiphany, I researched trucks. I wanted it perfect, a gesture they couldn't brush off. I studied Ford F-150 models, picking features Dad would love. By noon, I chose the XLT in the dark blue he adored, with an extended cab for his tools. I added a towing package for helping friends move and a cold weather package for Portland winters. That afternoon, I called Portland's biggest Ford dealership and spoke to the sales manager. I explained my plan and why it mattered. That's a huge gift, he said. We rarely see cars bought outright like this. It has to be perfect, I said. I need it done this week. The cost was steep but doable. My recent promotion brought stock options and a big pay bump. The truck's $29,600 price tag would have been impossible a year ago, but now it was within reach. As I sent the payment and signed the paperwork, I felt torn. Was this a smart way to handle my pain? Was I trying to buy their love? Or was it just my way of saying I was done being ignored? Sophia worried when I shared my plan. That's a lot of cash to prove a point, Jennifer. It's more than that, I said. Dad's wanted this truck forever. He deserves something for himself. Even if we don't fix things, I want him to have it. The dealership had the truck ready by Saturday. I flew to Portland that morning and took a taxi to the lot. The sales manager met me, showing me the truck gleaming under showroom lights. It was stunning, just as I'd pictured. The deep blue paint shimmered, and the leather seats were the kind Dad loved but always called too fancy for him. Want to test drive it? The manager asked. I shook my head. No, it's not for me. After signing the final papers and sorting insurance, I asked the manager to record a video of me by the truck. He looked confused but nodded. Keep it simple, I said. Nothing flashy. Standing by the driver's door, I faced the camera. My words were short and clear. Hi, Dad. Since we missed Christmas together, I got you something you've always wanted but never got. This Ford F-150 is yours. The dealership has the paperwork ready. Just pick it up. I love you. I kept my voice calm, not angry or emotional. This wasn't about guilt. It was about truth, delivered so they couldn't twist it. I checked the video, sent it to Dad's phone without a message, then took a taxi to my hotel and waited. My phone blew up instantly. Dad called first, then Mom, then Vanessa. I let them all go to voicemail. Texts poured in, confused, angry, desperate. Dad, Jennifer, what's this? Call me now. Mom, what are you doing? We need to talk. Vanessa, seriously, what's your deal? Mom's losing it. I read each text but didn't reply. For once, they wouldn't control the story. They'd have to face my truth, not theirs. The messages grew more urgent. Mom's tone shifted from mad to worried. We're concerned, Jennifer. This isn't you. Call us. Dad stayed short. Please, I need to talk to you. By 6:30 that evening, I ordered room service and tried to focus on a movie. Ignoring them was tougher than I expected. Years of habit screamed at me to answer, explain, apologize, even when I wasn't wrong. But this time, I held firm. At 7:45, 90 minutes after the video, a sharp knock hit my hotel door. My heart raced. I hadn't told anyone, not even Sophia, where I was. I muted the TV and peeked through the peephole. Dad stood there, looking confused and worried. I almost didn't open the door. I'd pictured this talk on my terms, maybe back in Seattle. But he was here, so I faced him. I opened the door slowly. Dad looked older than he did 6 months ago. His eyes had deeper lines, his shoulders heavier. He wore his usual jeans and flannel, hands deep in his pockets. How'd you find me? I asked, staying in the doorway. Called every hotel near the dealership till I found you, he said. Can I come in? I let him in, stepping aside. He moved carefully, like my hotel room was foreign territory. The truck, he started, then paused, lost for words. It's yours, I said plainly. No conditions. He shook his head. Jennifer, I can't take it. It's too much. Why not? I can afford it. That's not it, he said firmly. What's this about, the video, the truck, coming to Portland without telling us? I pointed to an armchair for him and sat on the bed's edge. The space between us felt heavy. I saw the Christmas photos, I said, voice steady. Everyone. The family party you said wasn't happening. Mom's turkey. The gifts. Vanessa and Kyle. His so-called daughters. I saw it all. Dad's face went pale. He stared at his hands, avoiding my eyes. Jennifer, it's messy. Then make it clear, I said. Tell me why my whole family lied to keep me out of Christmas. Silence hung heavy, full of years of unsaid truths. When he looked up, his face broke. I've got no excuse, he said, voice cracking. Nothing that makes this okay. His raw honesty stunned me. I'd braced for excuses, deflections, the usual brush-offs. I wasn't ready for him to own it. Mom and Vanessa convinced me it was best, Dad went on. They said you were too busy, that you and Vanessa needed distance, that Kyle was touchy about the girls and your supposed judgment. It sounded reasonable at the time. I didn't even know about those girls, I said. How could I judge something I knew nothing about? Dad rubbed his face. Deep down, I think I knew it was off. But it was easier to go along than fight them. It's always been easier. His words lingered, heavy. For the first time, he was admitting the pattern that shaped our family, one I'd felt forever. What hurts most, I said, isn't missing Christmas or the lies. It's that none of you seemed to miss me. You had your perfect holiday, and I didn't matter. That's not true, Dad said, leaning in. I missed you every second. I kept glancing at the door, hoping you'd walk in. It didn't feel right without you. But you didn't call or text, I said. You just went along. I did, he admitted, shoulders sagging. And I've got no excuse for it. None. We sat in silence, the truth sinking in. Outside, Portland's rain tapped the window softly. What's the deal with Kyle's daughters? I asked finally. Dad sighed. They're not his, not legally or biologically. He dated their mom for a bit. After they split, he still sees the girls sometimes. He acts like he has custody, but he only visits when their mom allows, which is less now. Your mom and Vanessa eat it up, seeing a perfect family. I had doubts, but it was easier to go along, I finished. He nodded, shame clear on his face. I've gone along too long, Jennifer. With too much. His honesty opened a door I never expected. For the first time, Dad owned his part in the family dynamic that kept hurting me. The truck, he said abruptly. I can't take it. Why not? I asked again. It feels like a goodbye, he confessed. Like you're buying your way out of our family. I don't want to lose you, even if I've given you every reason to leave. His words hit me. The truck was meant to make a point, not to say farewell. At least, I hadn't planned it that way. It's not goodbye, I said quietly. But things have to change. I deserve better, Dad. Always have. He nodded, eyes wet. You're right. You've deserved more than we've given you. As the rain grew louder, we started a talk long overdue. Dad shared how his childhood taught him to keep peace at all costs. I opened up about years of buried pain, always feeling like an outsider. For once, we talked as equals, facing hard truths together. By the time we finished, it was past midnight. The rain had stopped, leaving a calm between us. We'd crossed into territory we'd avoided for years, airing truths that had festered too long. About the truck, Dad said as he got ready to go. I've got an idea. I raised an eyebrow, curious. I'll take it on one condition, he said. Come with me to the dealership tomorrow. Let's pick it out together. I want this to bring us closer, not push us apart. His idea surprised me. The truck I'd bought was ready, paid for, but I saw what he meant, a fresh start, not just a big gesture. Okay, I said. Let's do it together. The next morning dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the emotional storm of the night before. I woke up in my hotel room, the faint scent of rain still lingering in the air from Portland's overnight shower. My mind raced with a mix of hope and apprehension. For the first time in years, Dad and I had peeled back layers of silence, and I wondered if the daylight would bring us closer or push us apart again. I met Dad at a cozy diner just down the street from the hotel. The place had that classic American feel, red vinyl booths, the sizzle of bacon on the griddle, and the aroma of fresh coffee filling the space. He was already there, sitting in a corner booth, nursing a mug of black coffee. When he saw me, his face lit up with a tentative smile, one that carried the weight of our late-night confessions. "Morning, kiddo," he said as I slid into the seat across from him. His voice was warmer than usual, less guarded. "Morning, Dad." I returned the smile, feeling a subtle shift between us. The tension from last night had eased, replaced by something fragile but real, like the first rays of sun piercing through storm clouds, promising a new day. We ordered breakfast, pancakes for me, eggs and toast for him, and chatted lightly at first. We talked about the weather, the diner's famous blueberry muffins, anything to ease into the heavier topics. But soon, the conversation turned to the truck. Dad seemed eager yet nervous, like a kid about to unwrap a long-awaited gift. "I'm still wrapping my head around this," he admitted, stirring his coffee. "But if we're doing this together, let's make it count." I nodded, feeling a surge of optimism. This was more than a vehicle purchase, it was a step toward rebuilding what had been broken for so long. After breakfast, we headed to the dealership. The drive was short, but it felt significant, our first joint outing in this new chapter. The sales manager, a friendly guy named Mike with a firm handshake and a genuine smile, greeted us at the door. I explained the situation briefly, how I'd bought the truck as a surprise, but now we wanted to return it and choose one together. Mike didn't bat an eye, he just nodded understandingly. "No problem at all," he said. "Family stories like this make my job worthwhile. Let's get you set up." We returned the original truck without hassle, the paperwork was straightforward since it hadn't left the lot yet. Then, Dad and I wandered the showroom floor, examining the F-150 models. I watched him closely, noting how his eyes lit up when he spotted one in deep forest green. "This one," he said, running his hand over the hood. It wasn't the dark blue I'd chosen initially, but I could see it meant something to him. "Why this color?" I asked, curious. He paused, a nostalgic smile crossing his face. "Your grandpa's old truck was this exact shade. He taught me to drive in it when I was 16. Bumped into a fence post on my first try." He chuckled at the memory, his eyes distant. "We spent hours fixing it up together. Good times." Hearing that story warmed me. These were the kinds of family tales I'd been starved of growing up, the personal anecdotes that weave generations together. In our strained home, such moments were rare, overshadowed by Mom's favoritism and Vanessa's spotlight. But here, in this unexpected setting, Dad was sharing a piece of himself freely. We spent the next few hours finalizing the details. Dad test drove the green truck, his face beaming as he handled the wheel. "Smooth as butter," he commented when we pulled back into the lot. The paperwork took time, but it was worth it. Dad insisted on contributing a small amount, nothing that would strain their budget, but enough to make it feel like his own. "It's gotta be partly mine," he explained, signing the check. "Otherwise, it doesn't feel like it belongs to me." I got it. This gesture wasn't about money, it was about pride and partnership. For so long, Dad had put everyone else's needs first, sacrificing his dreams. Now, he was claiming a piece for himself, and I was honored to be part of it. As we drove off in the new truck, Dad behind the wheel, me in the passenger seat, the city streets of Portland felt alive with possibility. We cruised through neighborhoods, the engine humming steadily, and talked more about Grandpa, about Dad's childhood, about the little things that shaped him. It was like unlocking a treasure chest of stories I'd never known existed. That evening, we grabbed dinner at a quiet Italian place near the hotel. The atmosphere was warm, with soft lighting and the clink of glasses around us. Over pasta and garlic bread, the conversation turned serious again. We had to address the elephant in the room, confronting Mom and Vanessa. They won't take this well, Dad warned, twirling spaghetti on his fork. Your mom has always seen family a certain way. Vanessa's been her golden child, the one who needs protecting. Me? I've just kept quiet to avoid waves. I nodded, sipping my wine. I know, Dad. But I'm tired of pretending everything's fine. The lies, the exclusion, it's eaten away at me for years. If we don't face it now, nothing changes. He looked at me, his expression resolute. You're right. And I'm with you this time. Truly with you. No more sitting on the sidelines. His words filled me with a quiet strength. For the first time, I felt like I had an ally in my own family, someone who saw my pain and was ready to stand by me. 3 days later, I boarded my flight back to Seattle, my mind buzzing with plans. I'd invited my parents to visit the following weekend, framing it as a chance to catch up. But deep down, I knew it was time for the confrontation that had been brewing for decades. The week flew by in a blur of work meetings and nervous anticipation. When the weekend arrived, I tidied my condo, trying to make it welcoming despite the tension ahead. Mom and Dad drove up together, but Dad arrived first in his new truck, pulling into my building's parking spot with a proud grin. Look at this beauty, he said, hopping out. Handles like a dream on the highway. I hugged him, feeling the shift in our dynamic already. Mom followed shortly after, her expression guarded as she stepped into my home. She glanced around, touching the modern kitchen counters and my sleek furniture as if they might rub off on her. Quite the extravagant setup you have here, she commented, her tone laced with that familiar mix of envy and disapproval. I bit back a retort, focusing on the bigger picture. Dad's truck sparked her curiosity immediately. What's this about a new truck? She asked, eyeing him suspiciously. We'll get to that, I said calmly. Once we were all seated in my living room, the Seattle skyline visible through the windows, I took a deep breath. We need to talk. About Christmas, the lies, everything that's been wrong for so long. Mom's face hardened instantly. She crossed her arms, defensive. I don't know what your dad's been filling your head with, but we did what we thought was best for the family. Vanessa was going through a rough patch with Kyle and those sweet girls. We couldn't have drama. Girls who aren't even his, I interjected, keeping my voice even. A situation you all claimed I judged, even though I knew nothing about it until after the fact. You've always been so judgmental of your sister's choices, Mom shot back, her voice rising. Always thinking you're better with your big job and independent life. Mom, Dad interrupted, his tone firm and unwavering, stronger than I'd ever heard him address her. That's not true, and you know it. We excluded Jennifer based on made-up stories. We lied to her, and we owe her a real apology. The room fell silent. Mom's eyes widened in shock, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't believe what she'd heard. For what felt like the first time in their marriage, Dad wasn't playing the eternal peacekeeper, sacrificing my feelings to keep the status quo. The conversation that followed was raw and painful, stretching for hours. Mom swung wildly between angry outbursts, "How dare you turn this on me?" and tearful justifications, "I was just trying to protect Vanessa, she's so sensitive." I stayed composed, laying out the facts, the exclusion, the elaborate lies, the favoritism that had defined my childhood. Dad supported me every step, validating my experiences instead of downplaying them. Jennifer's right, he'd say. We've let this go on too long. It wasn't easy. Tears flowed, voices raised, old wounds reopened. But amidst the chaos, something shifted. Mom, cornered by Dad's unyielding stance, began to crack. She admitted bits and pieces, how she'd always worried more about Vanessa because she seemed fragile, how my independence made her feel unneeded. It wasn't a full confession, but it was more than I'd ever gotten. By the end of the weekend, we'd forged an uneasy truce. Mom acknowledged her role in our family's dysfunction, though she stopped short of full acceptance. We set new boundaries, no more indirect communication through Vanessa, no more assumptions about my feelings. Direct talks only, even if uncomfortable. A week later, I braced myself for the video call with Vanessa. I initiated it, wanting to address things head-on. When her face appeared on screen, she looked wary, her eyes red-rimmed as if she'd been crying. We dove in, and the results were mixed, as expected. Vanessa flipped between apologetic tears, "I'm sorry you felt left out," and defensive accusations, "You always make me feel like I'm not good enough." She struggled to own her part in the deception, deflecting blame. "I just wanted a perfect Christmas with Kyle and the girls," she explained, sniffling. "You're always so perfect yourself, so judgy about my life choices. Like my relationships are never up to your standards." "I've never judged your choices," I corrected her gently but firmly. "I've only ever wanted you to be happy. But I won't accept being lied about or excluded based on false narratives you created." The call dragged on, emotions high. Vanessa admitted some regret but couldn't fully take responsibility. We ended without a neat resolution, but with a clearer picture of where we stood. I realized some relationships couldn't be perfectly healed, they needed boundaries to survive. For us, that meant limited contact, no more expectations of closeness that didn't exist. In the months that followed, gradual changes took root in our family. Dad and I built on our new foundation, talking weekly on the phone. Our conversations evolved from surface-level check-ins to deep, honest exchanges. We'd discuss books, current events, even our shared love for old movies. He opened up more about his regrets, and I shared my dreams beyond work. Slowly, Dad began asserting himself with Mom in small ways, suggesting they try new hobbies together, voicing opinions he'd once kept quiet. It was like watching him rediscover his own identity, separate from her dominant narratives. Our bond grew stronger, a quiet anchor in my life. My relationship with Mom remained strained but civil. We found neutral ground in conversations about recipes or garden tips, safe, unemotional topics. I came to accept that the warm, nurturing maternal connection I'd craved might never fully form. It was a bittersweet realization, one that stunned deeply at first. But with acceptance came freedom. I no longer chased her approval, freeing energy for my own growth. Vanessa and I kept our interactions minimal, sticking mostly to group family texts for birthdays or holidays. There was no big reconciliation, just a polite distance that suited us both. Kyle, true to form, drifted out of the picture soon after, moving on to another relationship and taking his performative fatherhood facade with him. The illusory family unit that had been prioritized over me crumbled within months, a poetic justice that brought quiet satisfaction. As for me, I threw myself into crafting a life that felt truly mine. I started hosting regular dinner parties for friends, intimate gatherings with laughter, good food, and real conversations that filled my condo with warmth. These nights became my new tradition, a reminder that family could be chosen. I volunteered more at the local shelter where I'd spent last Christmas Day. What began as a solo holiday plan turned into a passion. I helped organize events, mentored kids, and found purpose in giving back. It grounded me, connecting me to a community beyond blood ties. Romantically, I even dipped my toe back in. I started dating Alex, someone I met through a work event. He valued straightforward communication above all, no games, no pretenses. Our dates were simple, walks in the park, coffee shop chats, building trust slowly. It was refreshing, a contrast to the family drama I'd navigated. When December rolled around again, I felt a mix of nerves and determination. The holidays loomed, carrying memories of last year's betrayal. But this time, I decided to take control. I invited my parents to spend Christmas at my condo in Seattle, a bold move, flipping the script from their Portland home. To my surprise, they accepted. Dad arrived first, pulling up in his forest green truck, now polished and personalized with a few bumper stickers from his road trips. "Couldn't miss this," he said, hugging me tightly. Together, we decorated a small tree in my living room. He hung the few ornaments I'd saved from childhood, faded stars and angels we'd made as kids, alongside new ones I'd collected, sleek glass baubles and quirky Seattle-themed charms. Mom arrived the next day, carrying a container of her famous cranberry sauce. She seemed tentative but didn't protest as I set the tone for the holiday. I cooked a simple meal: roast chicken, veggies, pie, nothing extravagant, but made with care. We exchanged modest gifts, focusing on thoughtfulness over flash. It wasn't the picture-perfect family Christmas from TV specials, with everyone in matching pajamas and endless cheer. There were awkward silences, lingering tensions. But it was honest. No one pretended to feel what wasn't there. No facades of perfection masked the cracks. We talked openly about the year, acknowledging the changes without dwelling on pain. Christmas morning arrived with a quiet magic, the kind that sneaks up when you least expect it. I woke early in my Seattle condo, the soft glow of dawn filtering through my windows. The small tree Dad and I had decorated stood proudly in the corner, its mix of childhood ornaments and new baubles catching the light. The air smelled of pine and the faint sweetness of Mom's cranberry sauce, still chilling in the fridge. For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of holiday hope, not the forced cheer of past Christmases, but something real, something earned. Dad was up early too, already tinkering with his new forest green Ford F-150 parked outside. I found him wiping down the hood, his breath visible in the crisp December air. Couldn't sleep, he admitted with a sheepish grin. This truck's too exciting. I laughed, pulling my scarf tighter. You look like a kid on Christmas morning. Maybe I am, he said, his eyes crinkling. Then he glanced at the skyline, a spark of an idea in his expression. How about a drive? There's a spot I've heard about with a killer view of the city. Perfect for today. I agreed, eager for a moment that felt like ours. Mom was still asleep, her presence in my condo a delicate balance of progress and tension. We climbed into the truck, the leather seats cold but warming under us. As Dad drove, the city unfolded, Seattle's mix of sleek skyscrapers and evergreen hills dusted with frost. The truck's engine hummed steadily, a comforting backdrop to our light chatter about holiday plans and his new love for the truck's heated steering wheel. We reached a scenic viewpoint just as the winter sun broke through, casting a golden glow over the Puget Sound and the iconic Space Needle. The skyline sparkled, a postcard-perfect scene that felt like a gift from the city itself. Dad parked, and we stepped out into the chill, our boots crunching on the gravel. The air was sharp, carrying the faint saltiness of the nearby water. Let's take a picture, Dad suggested, pulling out his phone. Something to mark this. I hesitated, then nodded. Mom, woken by our absence, had texted that she was on her way in a cab to join us. When she arrived, bundled in her winter coat and clutching her scarf, she looked out of place but determined to be part of the moment. We posed together, me in the center, Dad on my left, Mom on my right. As Dad set the timer and propped the phone on a nearby bench, I stood tall, shoulders back, no longer the outsider clawing for a place. The camera clicked, capturing us against the glittering skyline. In that frozen moment, I felt grounded, rooted in my own strength, no longer defined by their acceptance. Back at the condo, we warmed up with coffee and cinnamon rolls I'd baked the night before. The mood was lighter than I'd expected, though not without its edges. Mom commented on the fancy espresso machine, a subtle jab I let slide. Dad, sensing the undercurrent, steered us towards safer topics, like his plans to take the truck on a road trip to the Oregon coast. For a moment, it felt almost normal, like the family I'd always imagined we could be. But as we sat around my small dining table, the weight of the past year lingered. Healing family wounds, I'd learned, isn't a straight path. It's a winding road, full of detours and rough patches, never truly finished. Some breaks, like the one between Dad and me, could be mended, repaired like a cracked vase, it seems visible but holding water again. Others, like my strained ties with Mom and Vanessa, needed to be acknowledged, woven into the complex tapestry of our relationships. They added texture, depth, but didn't have to define the whole picture. That Christmas morning, as we sipped coffee and nibbled pastries, I reflected on what I'd gained through this painful journey. True family, I realized, isn't bound by obligation or shared DNA. It's built on respect, honesty, and mutual care, the kind that lifts you up, not pulls you down. I'd spent years chasing a version of family that fit Mom's narrative, one where I was the independent outlier, unnecessary to their story. But now, I saw family differently, as a connection forged through truth, even when it's messy. The hardest lesson was learning that love sometimes means courage, the courage to set boundaries, to demand truth, to walk away from lies that chip away at your soul. Saying no to Mom's deflections, refusing to let Vanessa's accusations define me, choosing to stand firm, these were acts of love, for myself and for the possibility of something better. They weren't easy. Each boundary felt like carving a line in stone, heavy but necessary. As the day unfolded, we kept things simple. I roasted a chicken for lunch, paired with Mom's cranberry sauce and roasted vegetables. We exchanged small gifts, a book for Dad, a scarf for Mom, a photo frame from them with a picture from my childhood. There were no grand gestures, no forced displays of affection. Just us, trying to be present, navigating the new rules we'd set, honesty, directness, no more intermediaries. Later, as the sun dipped low, casting a warm glow over my living room, I thought about the future. I didn't know what next Christmas would hold, whether our fragile new dynamic would grow stronger or crack under old habits. Mom might retreat to her defenses, Vanessa might cling to her narrative. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity: I'd never again settle for less than I deserved. Not in family, not in friendships, not in love. That conviction was my anchor, a lighthouse guiding me through the fog of doubt. That evening, after Mom and Dad left for their hotel, I called my friend Sophia. She'd been my rock through this, her blunt honesty a lifeline when I felt adrift. "How'd it go?" she asked, her voice warm with concern. "It was real," I said, curling up on my couch. "Not perfect, but honest. Dad's trying. Mom's trying, in her way. It's a start." "You sound different," she noted. "Stronger." "I feel it," I admitted. "Like I've claimed my place, not just waited for it." We talked late into the night, laughing about her own holiday chaos, a burnt turkey, a nephew who broke a lamp, and I felt a surge of gratitude for the family I'd chosen. Friends like Sophia, colleagues who shared their lives, the shelter community where I volunteered, they were my people, too, built on mutual respect. In the weeks that followed, I leaned into this new chapter. I hosted more dinner parties, my condo filled with laughter and candlelight. I deepened my work at the shelter, finding joy in helping kids discover their own strength. My relationship with Alex grew steadily, rooted in open communication, movie nights, hikes, honest talks about our fears and hopes. Each step felt like building a life that reflected who I was, not who I'd been told to be. When I think back on that Christmas, the image that stays is that photo at the viewpoint. Me, centered, the city behind me, Dad's truck a quiet symbol of our new beginning. It wasn't just a picture, it was a declaration. I was no longer the girl on the sidelines, hoping for a seat at the table. I'd built my own table, and I chose who sat at it. If you've ever had to set tough boundaries with family, you know how hard it is. It's like walking a tightrope, balancing love and self-respect, guilt and freedom. Maybe you've had to say no to a parent's expectations, distance yourself from a sibling's drama, or redefine what family means to you. How did you navigate it? What did you learn? Drop your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear how others have walked this path. If my journey struck a chord, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Standing up for yourself, even when it feels impossible, can spark healing in ways you never imagined. It's not about perfection, it's about truth. Thank you for listening to my story. It's been a wild ride, full of pain but also growth. Above all, I've learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is demanding the respect you're owed, not just from others, but from yourself. Here's to building lives that honor who we are, one honest step at a time.